friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm smiling really, really big because this is my debut video, my very first video for City Girl Yoga, my YouTube channel. So welcome. My name is Dawn, and I decided that for this first video that it would be good to do a yoga one-on-one, a yoga basics for the different props that you would need in coming into or starting your yoga practice, the different things that you might see or that will be helpful to you as you come into a yoga class or as you begin your practice at home. So I think the very first thing that you need if you're considering taking a yoga class is a yoga mat. That's the very first thing that you need. And so if I'm honest with you guys, I'll share my very first yoga mat I bought, probably 3 years before I ever even got the nerve up to take a yoga class. So I bought it from Target. It was 13 bucks. And it doesn't have to be a very expensive yoga mat in order for it to be beneficial to you. I think that you need to get a mat that will give you the grip that you need, that will give you the support that you need. But I don't think that price or like just having the most expensive mat should determine that that's the best mat for you. So guys, honestly, I have like a $90 yoga mat, but my $12 yoga mat is still like my favorite yoga mat in comparison. And so I probably use the cheaper mat more often than the more expensive yoga mat. So I think the key thing to know once you have the right yoga mat is that when you go into a yoga class or if you're starting your practice at home, to take off your shoes and socks. You do not need them for your yoga practice. And actually they will get in the way and hinder you in terms of rooting down into the mat the way that you need to in your feet. It can cause you to have less grip, and it can be slippery. So it's actually more hazardous to have your shoes and socks on in a yoga class or as you practice yoga than it is to take your shoes off, to take your socks off. And like if you're worried about like who's gonna see your feet or anything like that, honestly, like they should be minding their own yogi business on their own yoga mat. And so don't worry about who's looking. Stay focused on yourself. Take those shoes and socks off so that you can root down and have the strength that you need to build up into those more advanced poses later on. So once you have the right mat, the next prop that you might use in a yoga class would be a yoga block. And so this block that I have is made out of like a cork material. It's pretty solid. If you've ever been into a class in a gym or even in a studio, you might have encountered the foam yoga blocks, and I've utilized those before. But I prefer like something more sturdy, like made out of the cork material. I just think that it gives me more support when I'm practicing. And so the whole purpose of the yoga block is to really lift the earth up to you. Like it's a means to be able to have more support. And so say for example, if you were folding over your legs, and so it might cause a bit of a strain in your hamstrings as you do that forward fold, well, the block can help to alleviate that. And so there are a couple of different settings that we use for your yoga block. And so this is low, medium, and high setting for the height of your block. And so as you progress throughout your yoga practice, in the beginning, you probably will start out on the higher setting depending on your flexibility and your comfort. And then you progress to medium and low, and eventually maybe you won't need the block. However, like I highly recommend using whatever support that you need in your yoga practice. Try not to do too much on your own. Like the props are there to aid you in your journey. And so very similar to like us in dealing with all of the things that we've had to deal with over the course of the last couple of years. So like the pandemic, mass shootings, like all of these things that have happened to where you might feel as though, or we're feeling like we need more support to carry us through. And so whether that is therapy or whether that was prayer or whether it was say coming together via Zoom when we couldn't meet together, like there were different things that put in place in order to help us to get the support that we needed. So I think it's vital that even in yoga that you get the support that you need. And so there's nothing wrong with needing to utilize a block in order to help to make you more comfortable in postures. So sometimes you'll hear the yoga instructor say to sit up on a block or to find a comfortable seat. So I'm going to demonstrate that. So sitting up on this block simply brings the earth closer to me. And so that can help to take the tension out of your hips. That can alleviate the strain in your knees. And that can help to tilt the pelvis forward so that there's more space in your lower back. And so that block just raises the earth up to you and helps you to be more comfortable as you flow throughout your practice. So we've talked about the foundation, which is our yoga mat. Like, you need that. Whether you decide to use anything else that I talk about here today, like that yoga mat, that's the foundation. Like, it's made to help you to root down and to really give you the support that you need to get through your yoga practice. We've talked about the yoga block. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is similar to a block in the way that it will support you, but we also use it in a couple of different styles of yoga practice, and that is a yoga bolster. And so this is made like a cushion material, and so if you don't have the bolster, you could use a pillow, you could use maybe like a seat cushion, and that would give you the same effect as this bolster. So the way that this is used is that sit up on it, and primarily when I am coming into a meditation practice, this helps me tremendously. So once again, I'm sitting up on the bolster. It takes the tension out of my hips. It takes the strain out of my knees. In a meditation practice, I might sit for say 5, 10, 15, 20, maybe even up to 30 minutes. And so in sitting on the bolster, that just helps to make me more comfortable as I come into seated meditation. It just takes the strain out of my bottom, which would otherwise be on flush on the earth, and it helps me to be more comfortable as I settle into meditation. And so if you have a meditation practice, there comes a point in time where you're seated in that meditation practice to where you get the urge to fidget, or the circulation in your legs will start to feel funny, like you need to shift. Well, I feel like my bolster helps me to overcome that. So another way that I use the bolster is to slide it underneath my knees when I am coming down onto my back, and that helps to alleviate any strain in my lower back. This bolster can also be used on your back as well as a support. And so as you come into certain kinds of yoga, such as a restorative class, this bolster would be utilized in conjunction with a block to help you to come in postures in order to have more of a release in your body, in order to come into more stillness and to come into a place of rest. This bolster can also be used underneath your head in Shavasana. So if you had head sensitivity issues and you don't want to have your head flush on your yoga mat, like, it can be used in that way as well. And so I love using the bolster. And so this is one of my favorite props. And so after our bolster, another prop that you might utilize in a yoga class is a yoga blanket. So I really like the Mexican styled yoga blanket. However, if you don't have this particular style of blanket, a towel, a throw pillow, or a throw blanket rather could be used in place of this blanket. So I like to use this for additional padding on my knees. In yoga, as you come into some postures that call for you to place your knees down on the mat, you might have some knee sensitivity, and so placing this blanket down gives you extra cushion underneath your knees. And so it's just an added support to help you as you move through yoga postures. I also use the blanket as I come into child's pose. And if you're not familiar with that, I'm gonna make another video where we go over some of the basic yoga postures and help you to understand the lingo and all of that good stuff, so stay tuned. But in coming into child's pose, in order to alleviate some of the pressure or to assist me with getting my bottom down onto the earth, once again, I'm lifting the earth up to me by using this blanket. So I spread my knees as wide as my mat, I sink my hips back, Now I have this blanket cushioning me, so I don't have to work as hard now in order to come into my child's pose as I melt my forehead melts down onto the earth. So this is just an additional support and added comfort. It makes it that much more easier to be in the posture. And so really that is the main point of all of these props and supports, is to help to allow you to be more comfortable in your yoga practice. And so on day one, when you start yoga, like, it won't necessarily be easy, but I can't tell you that it would be completely hard, but it's not going to be easy either. And so having these supports can help you so that you're encouraged not to give up when you come into a posture and you feel like, oh my gosh, this is not accessible to me. All things are coming. All things are accessible to you. You just simply need to modify, or we need to adjust. But I promise you that all things come with practice, and all things are available to you with the proper use of the right prop. So we've talked about our yoga blanket. We've talked about the mat. We've talked about the block and the bolster. Next, I want to share with you the yoga strap. So it looks like a belt in a way. And so the way that this is utilized is it helps you with achieving certain stretches or achieving more length where it wouldn't be available to you without it. And so what do I mean when I say that? So for example, and I'm just making a little like loop here so that I can use my strap. But say you are in a yoga class and the instructor instructs, say, hand to foot posture, which when we're seated, I take my hand to my foot and I'm here. So for me, I've been practicing yoga for the last 13 years. So this is pretty accessible for me. Like, I don't necessarily need the additional support in order to get here. However, say I did a crazy workout the day before and my muscles are sore, and taking my strap and placing it around my foot, maybe I bend my knee, I pull the strap, and now I don't need to work as hard to get the same stretch, to get the same level of release that someone who has more flexible hamstrings is getting. One more example of that, and I'm going to do it on my other side as a means to not leave me unbalanced when I log off of here today. But in yoga, anything that you do on one side, you need to do it on the other so that you're centered, so that there is a balance, so that there is synergy in your practice. And so same thing here. I take my hand to my foot, and that comes pretty easy for me. But in the event that it did not, I take my strap, and it just helps to now bring my foot to me a bit more. I don't have to work as hard. I don't need to reach down with my arm. Like, it just helps me. It aids me in being able to get into the posture more comfortably. And so also it can be utilized to where when we do postures that call for you to have loose shoulders. So I'm going to turn around here, for example, to show you. And once again, I've been practicing for a while, so the manifestation of this posture in my body might be different than yours. But say, for example, we're doing cow face pose, and my hands reach together back here pretty easily. Like, it's not a lot of strain. It's not uncomfortable for me to be here. Now on this side, it's a little bit tighter to try to make it here. And so this is where the strap can really help me to achieve that stretch. So I'm going to take my strap, like I've made my belt loop, I grab the other end of it, and all of a sudden, now I'm not working as hard to achieve the stretch. And so that strap is just going to aid in helping you to get into postures that you otherwise might not feel were accessible to you without the strap. So I highly recommend the use of a strap if you need it. There's nothing wrong with needing assistance to get you through your practice, And I think it's better to have the supports in place to help you to get through it versus not having them and then you get discouraged in your practice. So by all means, use your props. So the next prop that I want to share with you guys is one that's relatively new for me. I've been using it for a couple of years. It's not like I've never used this prop like when I go to take a class. Like this prop is more so used when I'm at home in my home practice. So I've never seen it in a studio or in a gym setting. Although I know that there are a couple studios out there who offer some classes in terms of teaching how to use this prop. And so that is this yoga ring. And you can see by my smile that this is one of my favorite ones to use. And so it's pretty sturdy. It doesn't have a lot of give to it. Like it will support your body weight. And so I really like that. And I use this primarily for my back. And so in deepening my back bends, in really loosening up my back, this is my go-to. So I'm going to show you how I go about using this one. Let me move my other props out of the way. And so with the yoga ring, I place this at the base of my spine. And so sometimes, like if I am just hanging out watching Netflix, like I'll sit and I'm just watching Netflix. I pull my belly in and I'm getting a bit of a core workout. But this really works wonderfully, like in taking out some of the tension and strain that I carry often in my shoulders and in my neck. And so I like to walk my feet back and then I roll my spine over this. And this feels heavenly. Like I feel an opening in my heart. I feel a release in my shoulder blades. And I get a bit of a workout in my buttocks and in my belly by holding here. Like I like to rock back and forth. And then if I really want to go for it, and I walk myself way, way over and let my head rest on the earth. And this feels incredible for me in the spine. And so I think one very important thing to note in yoga is that you have to do what works best in your body. And so this feels incredible for me. I highly recommend it, but it might not work well for you, or it might not be what your body needs. And so I think that is a very key thing to remember in going into a yoga class or in coming into a yoga practice as a beginner, is that sometimes the instructor might suggest things that your body does not like. And so you might have to modify, you might have to adjust, you might have to simply not do it if that's not what your body is asking for on that particular day. I think it's very important to be gentle with yourself, gentle with your body, and really pay attention to what your body is telling you. And so yoga should never be painful. Yes, there should be some effort. Yes, at times it might feel like there's work involved, but there should be this wonderful balance of effort and ease. And so like, yes, there's some effort there, but you want to ease yourself into it. And so if you ever feel like, ouch, you need to back off, you need to stop. I think any yoga instructor is going to tell you that if I suggest something and it's not for you, please don't do it. If it hurts, please stop, because we're not in your bodies, and so we don't know what works well for you. And so I think we have a responsibility to ourselves to be gentle to ourselves and to listen to our bodies and to back off when we need to back off. Yes? Okay. So now with that bit out of the way, I'm going to show you another way that I use this yoga ring. And so I mentioned that I have a tendency to carry a lot of tension and stress in my shoulders and like my neck and this upper back area. And so a lot of times I recognize, okay, when I have had enough, or when there's emotion and when there's energy that needs to flow through me instead of being held in me, is when I feel tightness and strain in this area here. And sometimes like fear or stress or anxiety likes to try to hang out in this area. And we can't have that. Like, we got to get rid of that energy. And I think that our emotions are supposed to be indicators of the direction that we need to go in, or they're indicators of things that maybe we haven't dealt with, but they are not meant to be stored up or to be trapped. Like, they're meant to guide, and then they're supposed to flow through us. And so this helps me to allow that energy to flow through, to be released from my shoulders and from my neck. And so with that being said, I like to come into child's pose, legs. And let me show you, I'm gonna just use my prop here. And so I have my yoga blanket. I'm gonna tuck this in between my bottom and my legs so that it gives me more space here, so that I don't have to work as hard, so that I can get the release that I want, that I need in the shoulder and neck space. I have my yoga ring, and so I roll this out in front of me. My knees are spread as wide as my mat. From here, I melt my heart down, and I feel an incredible stretch in the shoulder. I draw the shoulder blade down my spine and away from my ears, and I feel the release happening here as I breathe into it. And gently roll it back up. And I'm telling you guys, that's nice. Like, I feel the loosening all up and through here. And because the shoulders are connected to the neck, like, as I release in my shoulders, all of a sudden, like, I feel this loosening, this melting in my neck too. Anything that we do on one side in yoga, we've got to do it on the other side. So for good measure, I'm going to show you the other side. Not that I'm complaining, like, it feels so wonderful that I want to do it on this side. So once again, I have my blanket to support me. My knees are in child's pose position, so they're spread the full width of my mat. I walk my hand out. I roll out my yoga ring. I melt my heart down. My forehead presses into the earth. I draw the shoulder blade down the spine away from my ear, and I rest here. And so I'm working, but there's also an ease to this. Like, it doesn't feel like a strain. So there is some effort here, but then, like, we pull back a little bit on the effort and find the ease. So there's this wonderful balance of effort and ease. And I roll it back up. And you can see, by the way, I'm smiling. It's good. So I highly, 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 highly recommend the yoga ring. Yeah, I think I got it from Amazon. Like, I get so much stuff from Amazon, but especially my yoga props. And so if you guys are interested, I'll stick the links for all this good stuff down in the description box. But before we close it out, I just want to share some honorable mentions with you of things that I like to use in my yoga practice that might be beneficial for you and yours. And so the first is this eye mask. And so I love this thing. I think that it is filled with either like sand or, you know, those little like silicone beads. Like, it has some weight to it. I use this primarily in my meditation practice and in my restorative practice to cover up my eyes. So the reason to cover up the eyes is we want to turn off like the external senses in meditation. So as we try to draw our attention inward, like, sometimes that requires that you cut off the things that are happening outside, and it becomes a bit easier once you draw inward to be able to do that. But for me, I need quiet and I need dark in order to really get into my meditation practice, in order to really start to draw that energy inward. And for me, the whole purpose of the meditation practice is to link my internal self and my external self together, to have like this synergy of the two, to have this union to where I am pulling in from outside. I'm going within so that I can have this stillness, so that I can have this quiet. And it's in that space that, like, I find peace, or that I get the answers that I'm seeking for certain things. Like, it's in that space that I really find rest. And so that really is my reason for pulling inward, for having that meditation. It's really the linking of your external self with your internal self. And it's in that internal space, it's in that internal knowing that we really come into relationship with who we really are. And so it's not the things that are outside, it's the things within that we pull upon to bring them out. Yes, I like that. So one final thing that I really, really, really like to use in my yoga practice is essential oils. And so since it is daytime, I have peppermint oil here. And I like to place it on my pulse points. I like to place it on my forehead. I'll place it on my neck. And it just gives me a rejuvenated feeling. It's uplifting. So essential oils such as eucalyptus and peppermint and orange oils are very like uplifting. Lemongrass, uplifting. Helps you to feel rejuvenated, helps to jumpstart your day. So I like to use those for daytime practice, or if I need to get going. In the evening time, I would use lavender oils, frankincense, and myrrh. If I'm trying to feel more grounded and I'm trying to unwind, and I'm trying to wash off all of the stuff that I've carried throughout the course of my day, then I'll utilize those oils. This brings us to the end of our time together. I hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope that now you have more of an understanding of the different props and the materials and things that you will need as you begin your yoga practice. If you liked it, please click on the subscribe button so that you can receive notifications for when I post a new video. If you liked it, click on the like button, share it with your friends, share it with your family members. There's much, much more to come. I thank you so much for joining me this evening. May peace be on to you. Thank you.